you guys were not. You were in. Actually, you were in our preseason.
I was in Portland as well.
I want to cover playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the fans to enjoy and experience playoff hockey in Vancouver. I want the Canucks to win a Stanley Cup for this city. And looking at Raptors Twitter right now, a fade for Cade. I feel like a lot of them would love to see him there. I mean, I'm not advocating for that, but I mean, I know that's big on Raptors Twitter minds these days.
There's a lot of Twitter warriors out there.
LA gave one out to Jared Goff, and they've already moved on. Correct. They didn't think that could work for them.
It's all good. It's in it. It's in the box.
It's in the box.
Perfect.
For the Unnamed Sports Show, here's your host, Joshua Griffith.
Hello, and welcome back to the Unnamed Sports Show here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. I'm, of course, your host, Joshua Griffith, back after some time off in August, but it's September now, and that means sports really start to pick up. One sport that has already been going strong is Major League Soccer and the Vancouver Whitecaps, 9 straight unbeaten and 3 wins in a row. Of course, it hasn't been all good news for the Vancouver Whitecaps after getting dismantled by Pacific FC in the Voyageurs Cup. The team moved on from head coach Marc Dos Santos, and the team announced Vanni Sartini as the interim head coach. This came out after the loss on Thursday, and they announced on Friday. Excuse me. The team then came out on Sunday with an impressive 4-1 defeat of Real Salt Lake, their former landlords. So the season continues this weekend as they host Austin FC on Saturday, February 4th. And that doesn't really even touch the tip of the football iceberg. So what better way to break everything down than have on Dan Riccio from Sportsnet 650, The People's Show, to discuss everything Whitecaps, Canadian men's soccer, and a bit of a crazy transfer window. So before we get into the interview, of course, we have to take care of some housekeeping. Make sure to subscribe down at the bottom to the Sports Talk Line Network. If you don't already, hit the like button and leave me a comment. What do you think about the Whitecaps, Canada soccer, or any of the other topics that we hit on today? So without further ado, let's get to a football chat with Dan Riccio. All right, so I'm so thrilled to be joined now on the Unnamed Sports Show by the King of Spro, the man who can pronounce any word with an Italian accent, 1/3 of the People's Show on Sportsnet 650 weekdays from 3 to 7 p.m. Pacific time, the one and only Dan Riccio. Dan, what's up, man? Thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem, man. Not too much, just enjoying these last few days of summer.
Yes, it is. I don't know how it is on the mainland, but over here on the island, it is absolutely beautiful today. So I know we got 3 more weeks of summer, so I hope it's like this for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. No, not a cloud in the sky today. So good day.
Beautiful. So couldn't have asked for a better time to have you on the show to chat, because there's so much football, or soccer, as people in North America like to call it. I wanted to kind of start locally here in Vancouver and then kind of work our way out, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Perfect. So the Whitecaps, we'll go back a little bit. The Whitecaps got embarrassed to Pacific FC, fired their coach the next day, and then followed up with probably one of the most impressive victories in years with a 4-1 victory over RSL. Just kind of wanted to get your thoughts first on the Marc Dos Santos firing.
It's a tough one because Marc Dos Santos was brought into a situation that was just an absolute disaster. You know, I don't think there's any other way really to describe it, what the club was once Marc Dos Santos was taking over. And he came with a pretty good track record, you know, had a lot of success in lower leagues in North America, had success around the world in different spots, Brazil being one of them, you know, comes with a pretty good track record and a guy that, you know, you think could work well on a budget. And there's just a lot that happened, you know, like you think about his 3 years and the results were never really there, but the squad was in constant turnover. And I think part of that was how he took over the club. And, the amount of work that needed to be done, they were still looking to find, a president and a GM, so to speak, as they eventually did with Axel Schuster. But it never really felt like Marc Dos Santos got a fair shake, and to fire him after that result, I get it. It's very upsetting. It is an embarrassing loss for the club. Not only that, but they lost to Cavalry earlier. They're the first and only MLS club to lose to one of the CPL sides, and they've done it twice now under Marc Dos Santos. So I totally understand pulling the trigger there, but it just felt like you finally got the squad into a place where it could have success, and now you're moving coaches. It makes me wonder if Marc was ever really the guy for Axel Schuster, or if he always was going to be the transition guy for Axel Schuster.
Yeah, that's right too, because Marc came in before Axel Schuster on what you said was a very disaster. I can think, tire fire, dumpster fire, pick your analogy there. But when Marc came in, he kind of had problem after problem with a pandemic year, being stuck down in Portland and being stuck in Utah. So I would 100% agree that he never really got a fair shake. And the team just kind of looked like they were just right on the cusp of getting to where Marc wanted them.
Yeah, it did feel that way. And I'll say this about Marc, the thing about what he did here in Vancouver, the results were never there. You can't argue either other or any way around that, and Marc knows that too. But the club is in a far better place today than they were when he took over. And the one thing that I think he really did that is going to help the club moving forward, and whomever takes the club over from here, he really did build a culture. And I think that was kind of the biggest thing that this team needed, is to have some level of stability, continuity, and structure, which, Carl Robinson, he had the squad turning over all the time too. The culture really deteriorated towards the end of his tenure, as we saw with pretty much the red wedding at the end of that one season after he left. This club really needed that. And you think about the scandals that happened even when Marc took over, he had to kind of navigate his way all the way through that. And I think you talk to any player on that team and they're really tight knit. They're really together. And that's a testament to what Marc did in this market with this club, even though there was a lot of circumstances working against him at the time. But again, you can't argue against the results, and it's a results-based business.
Yes, it is. But now they seem to have some good results strung together. 9 straight unbeaten. They're on a 3-game winning streak. Do you think the playoff line is going to be attainable under new interim head coach Vanni Sartini?
It should be. With the amount that the club has spent this year, Josh, it's not the Whitecaps that you can complain, oh, they're not spending, it's like you can't do that with this team. The ownership has put forth a lot of money to get some better players into this market, into this team. And they've got their big piece now in Ryan Gauld. There's no excuses for Lucas Cavallini to not be getting the service anymore. And you've got a guy that's off to an incredible start here in MLS and clearly has the talent to continue that. This squad is, I don't think it's the finished product, but it should be pretty close at this point with the amount of investment. And whether it was Marc or if it's Vanni, they should be able to get this thing across the finish line and into a top 7 spot. My thing is always, it's not that hard to make the playoffs in MLS, especially if you're investing. So anything below the playoff line for the amount of investment that this team has made is not good enough. And that's essentially what Axel Schuster was saying when he fired Marc Dos Santos.
Yes, that was a pretty somber press conference. And you could tell that that Axel wasn't, I guess, happy to do it, because you could tell he had a close relationship with Marc. And that's what you kind of mentioned to the squad, having built that kind of dynamic from the inside out now that we haven't seen for a long time. So that's nice to see. And then too, when it comes back to the playoffs, we have Ryan Gauld. Obviously, They still have one more designated player spot. I don't think it's going to get filled anytime this season. Probably going to do it slowly, but wow, has Ryan Gauld been fun to watch in his limited action with the Caps.
Yeah, it's the thing about MLS, man. It's such a league that, football is obviously a team sport, and one player can only do so much. But in MLS, that one player can be more pronounced because of just the way that the league is built, how salaries are built, how the DPs factor in. And if you find your guy, then you should be able to have some success. And Ryan Gauld, obviously early on, feels like he is that guy. You think about some players around the league, Zella Ryan in Columbus. You think about Gill in New England, a guy that's, been around forever with Portland and has always, just been their talisman and has kept them in the contender conversation, Diego Valeri and what he was able to do for that club for so many years and always be that number 10, that guy that sets the standard there. You hope that Ryan Gauld is that guy. I kind of, I wonder if Ryan Gauld is the player that the club is looking at. You bring him in and maybe you flip him in a couple of years back to a bigger club in Europe or something like that. Or if he's a guy that sticks around for a long time and becomes, the face of the Whitecaps that's just around here for a long time and really does some great things in and around this team and this community, this football community. That's what I hope for Ryan Gauld down the line.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure, Dan, you've seen it here. I'm joined by Dan Riccio, host of the People Show on Sportsnet 650. Dan, I'm sure you've seen it, his social media presence and just the way that he's kind of embraced the Vancouver fan base and just the experience of being in Vancouver. I mean, he's 25. In a couple of years, if they want to sell him, I mean, I'm sure there would be interest in European leagues, but it kind of seems like, he might be just more suited for that all-star or superstar role. I mean, 3 team of the week MLS is now in a row. It just kind of seems like he might be more fitted for that.
Yeah, he's I'm kind of surprised at everything I've seen from him so far. I think he's even surprised, the headed goals and all that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a wonderful player, and they haven't had a guy that really attacks space like that is able to pick out the pass, is able to finish. Like, he's just such a well-rounded player. And I think that's a testament to how the club is maybe committed to identifying players in different ways, using the numbers, using the analytics. And, that's going to be a big part of how they go about their business moving forward. Another, thing that Marc Dos Santos started to establish with this club when he took over. So those are all big things. It's just, is this the player that will be sustainable for the Whitecaps? That's really my biggest question right now with Ryan Gauld, because he seems to be embracing everything about the club, the city, the social media. And, one thing I think that's massive for the MLS clubs in Canada is, and I think it was huge for TFC in their runs, and getting some of the mainstream, or at least some level of interest from the mainstream media, because that is a major battle for these MLS clubs in their home markets. They had Michael Bradley, they had Josie Altidore, guys that, speak the language. It's their first language, and they can answer any question that comes to them from the media. And I think it's important to have star players like that, because, what are the radio shows going to want to talk to? They're going to want to talk to that guy, and it's easier. He's more comfortable speaking in his native language rather than, maybe it's a Spanish speaker in his second language or whatever it might be. I think for the club, as a face of the franchise, as somebody that you can really sell to the community, to the city, I do think it does matter. It does help that he is an English speaker as well.
Yeah, and he's been great with us media so far. He's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Michael McCall from AFTN has been loving it. He's first in for every question, of course.
I'm sure they're drinking Iron Brew after every practice,
yes,
after every training session.
I would imagine so. I'm sure there's a couple more media members in there doing the same with them. But
yeah, one of these days I'm just going to show up with a case of Brio and be like, hey, guys, this is what we drink in Italy. All right. Have a couple of these.
So I want to keep it in Canada, but I want to move to an international bit because we have a huge game today. Canada men's national team starts off their run in the Octo for the World Cup qualifying for Qatar 2022. This is huge. I mean, and even bigger is the announcement that Sportsnet is picked up 13 of the 14 matches. So that must be exciting for you and your parent company there and your bosses. How excited are you to see what Canada can do in these games?
I've waited my whole life essentially for this. I was still a little guy when Canada was last in the Hex in the lead up to the 98 World Cup, and obviously weren't able to book their place there. Was not born when they made it in 86, which, talking to some of the guys that were on that roster, Bobby Lenarduzzi was, not Bobby Lenarduzzi, Bobby Yarushi, who wasn't on the 86 team. But was a guy that I worked with early on in my media career. And, his stories were always brilliant, playing with the New York Cosmos and, the lead up to 86. And, he's still bitter about it because he wasn't on the team, but for a lot of reasons. But, just seeing that passion from some of those guys from that era, it kind of just, really pushed me towards trying to continue to grow the game in Canada. And, yes, my duties have changed through the years, and I've, like a lot, have had to focus on hockey more than soccer at times. But, anybody who follows me on Twitter knows where my real big passion does lie. And it's with the game of football, what I grew up on. And, to see this, to think of this moment, everything about this summer is already like surreal. First, women winning the gold, it's just like, what is happening? Where is this going? Watching that Gold Cup, seeing a Canadian B-side, take and really test Mexico all the way to the brink. I mean, it was just like, what world am I living in? I didn't think any of these things were possible. My memories of Canada are Atiba was onside and the 8-1 of San Pedro Sula. I remember that was kind of early in my career, and people would come up to me and they would be like, what's the big deal about this match against Honduras? And, there I am like, well, you see, if Canada gets a draw in this match, then they're off to the final stage of World Cup qualifying. And so people are like, oh, so like they don't even like get to the World Cup if they do this? Like, no, they just get to somewhere that they haven't been in a very long time, which is the final stage of World Cup qualifying. They're like, oh, and then they lose 8-1. And it's like, oh, well, all that was for nothing. So, that's my experience with the Canadian national team. And so everything since Davies kind of came onto the scene, won the Golden Boot in, what was that, 2016 now, 2017. Now Jonathan David and Tajon Buchanan and Eustachio. There's just so much talent on this team. It's unbelievable. And talent-wise, and what's exciting is, okay, they're not just like happy to be here in this final round in the Octo. It's we on talent have enough to qualify here in one of those top 3 spots. Arguably, I think Canada is third from a talent base behind the U.S. and Mexico. Yeah, you could say Jamaica with all their guys that have kind of converted, like Michail Antonio and the Premier League stars, but I think you're really picking at straws. Canada's got that good of talent right now, but when it comes to CONCACAF and when it comes to World Cup qualifying, it doesn't just come down to talent, as we know. So that's what's going to make this exciting.
One of the funnest things that I get to do on my show is when I talk to athletes who've done the international experience and get to ask them about, like, okay, I think I had Paul Dolan on my show last month here, and talking to him about some of his national team experiences and what's the craziest thing you've ever come across. And I don't think people understand the atmospheres, or, when they say there's a home side advantage in football, oh, they mean it. But when you get to this level, going down to some of those places in the Caribbeans and the Central Americas, like, it's otherworldly, the things that they run into as players.
Yeah. I kind of wonder, like, who's going to slip the, well, it's too late now, but, are you going to find out where the El Salvador, hotel is, so that you can get outside and start blasting music or playing drums and singing songs and trying to keep those guys up all night long? It's a different world in Canada. Like, that doesn't really compute. But those are the types of things that will happen when the Canadian team goes down to Honduras or El Salvador. And that's what's going to make those matches that much more difficult. And yeah, you talk to any of those guys, and Craig Forrest saying, I've had bags of urine thrown at me at the Azteca and things like that. And it's just like, these are real things that happen, man. It's gross, it's crazy, but those countries live for football in the same way that we say we live for hockey. Well, we're respectable about it most of the time. But not there. When it comes to making the World Cup, this is everything for those fans, and it's going to make this incredibly fascinating. And I'm sure we'll have a lot of stories to tell after it.
Absolutely, and it's just going back to that a little bit. I wanted to bring up a story. I asked Marcel, John, what was the worst thing you had thrown at you? Because I had heard all the stories, and he said one shoe, because I always wondered what happened to the other shoe. Did he just bring one shoe to throw at me? Did he just throw his one shoe, and he left with one shoe on? That's
pure Austin Powers. Like, who throws a shoe?
Like, really? Honestly.
Pretty much. You talk to a lot of those guys. I mean, even going down and thinking about the matches that they recently played, and John Herdman being like, we're playing in the middle of summer, and the guys' feet they're burning up as they're trying to run through the pitch in this awful, you can't even really call it grass, because it's just like dirt. It's not like the beautiful carpets you see in the Premier League or anything like that. These guys are playing on trash fields in the middle of Central America. So it's a huge test for a lot of these guys. It's their first experience, and they've handled everything really well to this point. But the stakes only get higher from here.
Yes, and there's already been some stuff so far in these before.
Oh yeah, Canada's spying on Honduras's training sessions.
The drones.
The drones. I think the Honduras is questioning whether Canada will get the benefit of the whistle, because the president of CONCACAF is Canadian. So the head games are already being played.
I think Costa Rica cut their grass like extra short, and it's supposed to rain.
Yeah.
Is that, no, whoever is it? Did they host the US? I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, they cut their grass super short. It's supposed to rain. It's CONCACAF is 100% CONCACAFing, and I love it.
I don't know if I love it or hate it. I'll love it if Canada qualifies.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, we can revisit this, whether we love it or hate it, along the line. Dan Riccio, thank you so much for joining me. I know you're super busy. I knew that this time was going to just fly right by chatting soccer with you. I have one more question for you, because I absolutely wanted to make sure that I asked you about it. We had a busy off season for the European transfers, and we had both Messi and Ronaldo change teams. I know you were pretty happy about one of these, and that's for a pretty interesting reason.
I you know what? People don't really understand my dislike for Cristiano Ronaldo. But,
I think they might.
Yeah, everybody respects what he's done as a player on the field, and now the all-time leading men's international goal scorer, because Christine Sinclair remains the GOAT and will probably remain that way for all time. But the one thing about it is, like, I just never thought it was the right move for Juventus at the time to go after Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, they just didn't have the team. They were kind of coming towards the end of a cycle where they had guys like Pirlo, they had to sell Pogba. They had all of these things kind of working against them. And then they bring in Ronaldo, who's now into his early 30s and moving towards his mid 30s when they acquired him. And he's just not that guy to be able to carry a team. He never really was. Like, you think about the 4 straight Real Madrid Champions League titles, like they had the greatest midfield arguably ever assembled with Modric and Toni Kroos and obviously Casemiro. But I just never really liked the idea of Cristiano on Juventus. I thought they prioritized business reasons over footballing reasons, and that's something that I could never really get behind. I'm happy the nightmare is over. I know it's going to be tough without him because they built the squad around him the last few years. Now they don't have him, so might be some growing pains, but I think in the long run, Juventus will be back.
Yeah, I would agree that it was kind of an interesting decision. Like you said, it was more of a business decision because, you know, you see just what happened. I mean, Man U's website crashes when they make the announcement, and you know, you got.
Like, I don't even think he helps Man U all that much. Like, they can score a goal. They're still gonna have problems in defense and in midfield. And like, he doesn't do any of those things. So at least not regularly. So good luck with that.
I've seen a lot of great mock-up lineups for Man U, and it's just like, you know, it has the lineup and then just like right in the holding midfield spot. It's just like a big question mark, like somebody.
Yeah. McTominay? Nemanja Matic still? Really? We're still with this? No, thanks.
Yeah.
Fred, as we know with Fred the last couple of weeks anyways.
Absolutely. So Dan, I know you got your show a little bit later today from when this will come out. So what's on the lineup for today for the People's Show?
Well, we're going to be talking a lot about the Canadian men's international team.
Nice.
And obviously in the lead up to that match, it's a big one. And we're continuing to have some fun. We're giving out spots for our fantasy football league. You can play alongside us and Eddie Lack. So be tuning in for that as well. It's the People's Show every day at 3:00.
And I think what would I see? Silver and Black Canuck got in there. I think what Matt got in there yesterday for he won the tweet. It's
a growing crowd now. It is very hotly contested. People love fantasy football and they want to be a part of the People's Show League.
No, and you got all your regulars too that they're going hard. Rager and you know, Adam, the former Bath guy, they're going hard. All those guys I follow on Twitter, so love the hustle from them, and really
they're doing whatever they can to get into the league. But
absolutely,
it's gonna take some big time bribery to figure it out.
I saw the bribery too. That's great, awesome, Dan. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I have to have you back again to chat some soccer sometime, so you can get you away from all that, you know, the hockey centric stuff on 650.
Thanks for listening to me ramble on for a while there. Appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thanks. All right. So I had a blast. We didn't even get to half the topics that I wanted to touch on, but we did touch on the Vancouver Whitecaps. We talked about the Canada men's national team, the game against Honduras, which comes up today at 5 p.m. Pacific time, airing on Sportsnet and One Soccer. So make sure to check that out. That's going to be a great game. Canada starts off their first of 14 matches in their run of the Octo, looking to qualify for Qatar 2022 World Cup. So that would be absolutely fantastic. Better than getting the free pass for the 2026 one that we are hosting. So technically already qualified for. Really hope that everyone enjoyed that chat with Dan Riccio. It was such a blast to just chat all football or soccer as we know it more in North America. And yeah, look forward to getting him on again as a guest as we move forward into the football season. So I hope that everyone is watching that game tonight, supporting the Canada men's national team. And as for the Whitecaps, they get back into action against Austin FC on Saturday, and they got ground to move up in the Western Conference. As Austin FC is sitting 12th currently with 21 points. Vancouver is, with 19 points. Vancouver is sitting just out of the playoff line with 26, one behind Salt Lake and Portland. They will see Portland next week on Friday, September the 10th. So lots of opportunity for the Vancouver Whitecaps to move up and get into a playoff spot. That's pretty much all we have for today's show, but tune in because we might have some special shows before the Whitecaps game on Saturday. For the Sports Talk Line Network, I have been your host, Joshua Griffith, here on the Unnamed Sports Show. And of course, remember to love sports, all sports.